Line's good.
Never on.
Whoa.
Hard. Release.
Come on, Brent. Line's good. Got real close.
The hair high, right?
Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Ooh, welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean Graham Scott. Alongside, as always, hello, Scott.
Sean, good evening. It's seems like we've done this before.
We might have. This might be a take two for us. Scott, you want to tell the people what had happened?
Yeah, I done goofed. Cue the you blew it. And the recording didn't work properly at the curling club on Monday night. So here we are, reconvened.
Yeah.
Sean, it is the eve of the 2024 Major League Baseball season North America edition.
Correct.
How you feeling?
I'm excited. I always love when baseball season comes around. I understand why Major League Baseball moved opening day to March. I don't think I like it. But,
Yeah.
you know, it is what it is. I mean, if it means no games in November, then I'm in. Although last year they had games in November. So who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, I'm excited too. Baseball on our TVs. Spring training is good. You see the green, you don't know who the heck's playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it starts for real, and we're gonna get treated to that lush artificial surface on Tropicana field. So,
yep, nothing says here's spring like indoor baseball
in Florida.
Yeah. So who knows? Apparently, Scott, the roof of the dome was open already for one of the days there in March when it got really warm for the construction guys who were in there doing the finishing touches on the reno. They were able to open up the lid. So that's exciting.
Yeah. And the Blue Jays aren't back for, I think, 10 days. So
yeah,
there's a chance. There's a chance.
Indeed there is. Scott, there's also a chance that we saw the game and shot of the year last weekend in separate moments at the Women's World Curling Championship. We said in our preview that Rachel Homan had, not on her own because she didn't play Carrie Anderson, but she was part of the event that ended Carrie Anderson's 4 consecutive Scotties championships. Perhaps she was in a position to end 4 straight World Curling Championships for Switzerland and Silvana Tiranzoni. And that is, in fact, what happened with a win on Sunday afternoon. Rachel Homan picks up her 2nd Women's World Curling Championship. Scott, what is your main takeaway from this event?
Sean, we said before the event that if Team Homan picked up the ice and could make those amazing run backs, they were the team to beat. Proved to be the case this week. They ran into a little speed bump that last game of the round robin against Korea. Saw them again the next game. Looked like they were having problems with them early. Seemed to right the ship and was able to pull it off in the end by basically just putting a lot of pressure on in that 10th end, getting the big score. They said it was 3. I think it was actually 4, unless
I think it rolled out. I think it ended up rolling out. Yeah.
It looked to me like it stopped before, but I guess I'm wrong because they put 3 on the board. But yeah, she was making pistols all night there, especially to get her 2 in the 8th was pretty impressive. So yeah, no, overall solid team effort, and battled a little adversity. We'll talk a bit about the championship game there too, but we're able to put the pedal to the floor when it mattered. And yeah, they were the best team all week, deserving champions.
Yeah, for sure. You talk about that semifinal. I think that's the game of the year so far, and I think it's going to be difficult for anything to top that. That was a phenomenal game. Blank in the first, points every other end, and hard-fought singles throughout. It was kind of like just a heavyweight fight, and they were just in the middle of the ring, just throwing haymakers at each other. That's what it felt the whole game. Beautiful draws, freezes, rolls to the absolute perfect spot by both teams. It was just an overall incredible game. The only real miss you see is in the 10th there, where Korea's trying to play aggressively. When you're up one without, it's tricky into to what you have to do, especially in a 5-rock rule situation. They just miss a couple here and there, and they have to play super aggressive late in the end because it had gotten away from them. The multiple was already on the table, and it was close. Skim almost makes her last draw, just a little bit open, and Homan has a relatively easy shot, easier shot on her second one than her first one for sure. And she's able to pop it. So that was a great game. Game of the year for me. Really enjoyed watching it. Every end was interesting, angles, and it was just a really phenomenal, well-played game.
Yeah, and you talk about a Rachel Homan team that's lost 6 games all year. 2 or 3 of them were to this Korea team.
Yeah.
So, a close fought battle, and they were full money for their effort in that game. But
100%.
yeah, and can't ask for anything more, right?
Oh, no, absolutely not. And then the other one, Scott, was the final where we saw maybe the shot of the year for Rachel Homan in the 9th end, down 5-4. She's sitting one. She has another one in the top 12 foot. That is third shot. Does not see that a split is available. I thought Tracy Fleury saw it first, but in the interviews after the game said that Sarah Wilkes was the first one to point it out, that it was there. Risky shot. If you only get one, if you do something that you only get one, your win percentage, your likelihood of winning goes way down compared to scoring 2. She takes the draw, put it in the 8 foot, which she's going to do 99 times out of 100. Your win percentage is over 50%, around like 60 or something percent. That you're going to win that game. If you're tied without, it goes way down. Yeah. So this is a risky shot for her. Now, riskier for a rec level player, because the rec level player is more likely to throw it through and not touch anything, do something like that. Rachel Homan, a player of her caliber, is probably going to get 2 no matter what, because she's going to throw back 8 foot weight. And even if she taps it on the nose or does some, or misses it entirely, she's probably going to get 2. But it still is a risky shot. She makes the split for the 3, takes the 7-5 lead, and then in the 10th end, they kind of get to the point where there's no point of peeling the Swiss stones. They have so many of theirs in the house, and Switzerland just ran out of time to make them all go away because they're trying to put stuff in here, and Homan's just piling up. That was very much a rec level strategy of, I'm just going to put a bunch of mine in the house. You got to deal with it at some point. And it worked out that Alina Pats did not have a final shot. So overall, Scott, I didn't think the final was as good as that Korea game, but it gave us a bigger shot than any of the single shots in the Korea game. With that shot in the 9th, again, I think early strong candidate for shot of the year.
Yeah, for sure. We were watching the game together and talked about it when she's like, oh, we can play the split. And you say, oh, is it worth it? And playing against a team like Tirinzoni, yeah, I think it is there, because being up 1 against a team that's converted the hammer, 50% of the time throughout the week, you don't really like your odds as much when you have a chance to put that 3 on the board. It's a tough shot. They knew where to put the broom for it, though, and knew which weight to throw. The sweeping call was a bit funny. Tracy Fleury did a few hops, screaming. Emma and Sarah, the end of their names sound the same, so when they're screaming at one to sweep and one not to, and I think Rachel and Tracy had different names in their mouths, so it was a bit tricky, but it ended up perfect, so you can't argue with the results, right?
Absolutely.
Like you said, I think I said at that time that's the shot of the year, and we'll see. That's the one to beat in my books for sure.
Yeah. Now, with respect to the final, Scott, we should talk about this. The Swiss outplayed them in the first half, and one of the things in curling that the teams talk about a lot is if you don't have the hammer, you want to flip it in the first half of the game. And Tirinzoni is able to do that after 3 ends. They're tied with the hammer in the 4th, and they get their 2. Homan gets 2 in the 5th to tie it up. So after 5, tie game, Tirinzoni has the hammer. 6th end is wide open. 7th end, on Tirinzoni's first, there's 3 or 4 rocks in the house. There's a Canada stone towards the back of the house, and then 3 stacked up around just like 11 o'clock in the 4-foot. And there's a moment there where they have a pretty long discussion. And I think Silvana was leaning towards playing a freeze, coming in, trying to maybe tap stuff around. Seemed like Alina Pats and the rest of the team were going towards blowing it up and just playing for the blank. They end up playing for the blank in that spot. I did not like that. I didn't like the 6th either. And you can make a case in the 7th. Well, blanket, hammer in the 8th, and you got 2 against 1 in terms of hammer. But Scott, when you're playing better than somebody, which they were in the first half of the game, independent of that 2 and 5, I don't think I like taking your foot off the gas a bit. Playing it open gives the other team a chance to reset, get their feet under them a little bit, exhale. And that's what Homan and that Canadian team did. They get the 2, okay, let's reset, and they have a couple open ends, get back comfortable, get into the rhythm, make your shots. I just think when you're playing better, you have the momentum, you just got to keep going. And I understand the analytics and the stats and all that, but the thing is, you don't need the hammer in the 10th end if you're up by 5.
Yeah.
Right? Because there is no 10th end.
No, exactly. And so I think you're 100% right with this. Team Homan, yes, they got the 2 in the 5th, but they looked a bit, I won't say lost. They looked a bit agitated in the first half. Yeah. They were missing shots just by a little bit, not a lot. Some of those, like, oh, really? Come on. And they were able to flip the scoreboard, as you said, Tirinzoni. So they scored their 2 in the 5th, had a chance to have a break, come back out. If Switzerland keeps putting that pressure right on them, I think that's their best chance to sort of keep the pressure on and keep them in the mindset of having to make difficult shots. But by blowing it up in that 6th, like you said, sort of gave them the chance to throw a bit easier of shots and take a breath, get their feet under them, understand the ice, read some spots that they hadn't played before, and really, really set them up for success. The force in 8, huge. I believe that force was all Homan, right?
Yeah, that's a Skip's force right there for sure. The Swiss were set up for a multiple, and Rachel makes 2 beautiful freezes and takes it away from Alina Pats. So again, Rachel Homan is great, obviously, but she's not going to make those 10 times. She's going to make 10 of those in the second half. I mean, maybe she could actually, she might actually, but make her do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because it's a lot better chance that she'll make 2 out of 10 shots when she has to than 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
If all of her shots are that difficult. So a bit of a strategic, tactical error perhaps on the part of Team Switzerland. And then in the 9th, or in the 10th rather, there was just some misses. Like Tirinzoni was heavy, and
Pats was light.
And Pats was light. And there you go.
Yeah. So there you go. Congratulations to Rachel Homan. It's its 2nd World Championship for her. First for Tracy Fleury and first for Sarah Wilkes as well. In the bronze medal game, it was Kim Eun-ji with the win over Stefania Constantini. So a bronze medal for South Korea, 3rd medal in the last 5 years, I believe, for South Korea. So congratulations to them. I did not see any of that game. Scott, did you?
I did. Yeah, it was pretty good. I felt like both teams were a little bit off, which you kind of expect, right? A bit of a letdown having lost semifinals the day before. Hey, come out and play this basically exhibition game. I guess the points matter for the Olympics, sure. But I think there was only 1 point of difference. Yeah. And Italy's already qualified. So, not as tight a games as we saw earlier in the week from either of those teams, but still pretty entertaining and a good showcase for what we're going to see coming up in the Olympics from Team Italy this week. I thought they were super strong. Constantini didn't seem rattled at all. She did let her time clock get down to like 6 seconds
Yeah.
on a couple games. So she's maybe studying Kevin Cooey's playbook a bit too much. But yeah, great week for both those teams. And it was a bit of a coin flip for me in that game, who should have been the bronze medalist.
And it was South Korea who gets it. They beat Sweden in the qualification game. Anna Hasselberg goes 7-5. Tough start for her, going 0-3 to kick off the week. They did not have it that opening weekend, as we saw in the game against Canada, and that continued, losing to Scotland as well. So they just really didn't have it with them that first weekend. They picked it up a bit as they went through the week, but overall just didn't. Yeah, just it wasn't great for them. And my apologies. They beat Scotland there. They lost to Madeleine Dupont, I believe, there on the weekend. And tough week for Anna Hasselberg. But Scott, it does mean that one of my favorite annual traditions is going to continue, that I get to pick Anna Hasselberg in the bold predictions pod.
Yeah, so you get to keep doing that, which is great.
Yeah, so we already got a bold prediction for next year. And then the other playoff team was Madeleine Dupont, got off to a roaring 5-1 start, ends up 6-6. She had a very weird schedule where all of the top teams, or most of the top teams, were scheduled late in the week for her. The only top team that she played early in the week was Canada. So let me correct myself again. And it wasn't Madeleine Dupont who beat Anna Hasselberg on that Sunday morning game. So, Scott, overall, it was just a really weird schedule for her. And she had clinched a spot Thursday night, even though Tabitha Peterson could have caught her and did catch her in the standings, but she had beaten Tabitha Peterson already. So Madeleine Dupont gets into the playoffs again. So congratulations to her.
Yeah, I guess they'll be happy with that. Qualification points mattering this year for the Olympics. They'll be happy to do that, get that far. They're a team, Sean, that I feel like I hurt their feelings, and that everything I predict about them, they'll do the opposite. So, if I say that they'll make the playoffs like I did last year, they won't. This year I said they wouldn't, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know what to do. Do a reverse jinx, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, well, she's well on her way to the Olympic Games in 2024 with that finish, as is Tabitha Peterson at 6-6 in 7th place. Rebecca Morrison in 8th place. That is where the cutoff would be right now for the Olympics. 10 teams get in, but it's the final 2 spots go to the last chance qualifier. So Norway, Turkey, Japan, Estonia, New Zealand would have to go that route if they want to get into the Olympics. Of course, we have another World Championship to play before that happens. And I should say it was Norway who beat Sweden Sunday morning. 3rd time's a charm there. For Turkey, Dilsat Yildiz 3-9. That game against Canada was phenomenal, where they were just making everything, playing super aggressively, had Rachel Homan on her heels. It was a really good game. Crowd was into it. That was a lot of fun. The Japanese team, Ueno Miu, that team was fun. Learning curve for them for sure. A very young team. Lisa Terman had some good performances from her squad. Again, growing program there. And Jessica Smith from New Zealand rounding out the field. Gets a win, Scott. So everybody was on the board this year at the Women's World Curling Championship.
Yeah, we said in our preview that we expected New Zealand to get a win, and they did in their game. Who did they beat? Scotland, right? So good for them, and congratulations to Team Smith.
Yeah, so the only other thing I wanted to mention from the Women's Worlds, the crowd was great. People were loud. The only thing I didn't like there, Scott, on Saturday was there was a few times when the Let's Go Canada chants were going on during the Korean team's shots. So as they were kicking out, I wasn't crazy about that. I will say that I am in line with the Happy Gilmore approach of we could let's just have people cheer during all sports all the time, right? These silence please things I don't like. The players know we're there. Why are we pretending like we're not? Like,
Yeah.
Like you could, like, I don't know. And during the week you could be kicking out and people could be cheering a shot from another sheet and it's not rude. But in a single sheet scenario, I don't know. Like, let's just make it loud all the time. Why not? But that's not the protocol right now. So I wasn't crazy that there was this breach of protocol on occasion. I don't think it was malicious. I think it was cheering for Canada, but the timing of it wasn't necessarily great. So that would be my only minor quibble with the crowd there in Sydney.
Yeah, that's a fair quibble, but to say the other side of things, the crowd showed out. It was a full house, a lot of cheering, some standing room only by the end of that game on Sunday evening. So full marks to Sydney for doing that. Sydney's not the easiest place to get to, but honestly, great job by Sydney hosting. They had a lot of school groups in throughout the week, so that even the morning draws were loud and raucous, and gave the players a bit of some difficulty. So overall, I really liked it and thought it was a great championship.
Yeah, I agree. I would also note that in terms of coverage, there was a few times where, like, I don't know, like they know they're allowed to be mildly critical of Team Canada, right? And not even critical. It's not even critical. It's, do they know we can hear them? Like, does Russ know that we can hear Rachel Homan talk about what shot she wants to play? Because there was one, I can't remember what game it was, where she says, I don't think this double is there. The straight back double is there. I think it might jam. I want to play it across the top and play it the thin way. And it overcurls and she makes it the straight back way and it doesn't jam. And Russ says, great sweeping call. They had it all the way. They knew it wouldn't jam. No, like, we heard her say she thought it would jam and didn't want to make it that way. You don't have to lie to us. You could say, hey, that was a lucky break. It overcurled from what they thought, and she got it the back one thin enough that it didn't jam. You're allowed to say that because we can hear her.
We can. I don't know, man.
I don't know. I thought that was a little strange. And, he wasn't shy about criticizing, say, weight choices from other teams and that. I don't know. It's one of the first times I really noticed it.
Yeah, I noticed him saying a lot of, like, oof,
unbelievable.
Yeah. Unbelievable. I did count the number of unreal and unbelievable that Rachel did in her final speech. I think it was three.
There's only three.
And the game when they played Turkey after the game, and she's shaking hands with Dilsat, and she said, "Unreal, guys, unreal. You played unreal." But she added that to her vocabulary after using unbelievable at the Scotties. So good on.
Yeah, or I don't believe it. I just can't believe it. Like, I don't know. I've said it before on the show, Scott. I don't know what's unbelievable about it. It's curlers making curling shots. This is all very believable to me. It's not.
Very believable.
Yeah. So there you go. We'll see what the coverage is like from Switzerland for the Men's World Championship. It will be different. It is not TSN produced. It is World Curling produced, which never is quite as good. The angles aren't as good. It doesn't work out. They're calling it on a screen. I don't know. The world feed is never as good as when TSN is producing it themselves, but that is the reality, and we should be fortunate and count ourselves lucky that TSN does produce one of the two world championships every year. Yeah,
for sure. Curling on our TVs is good any way you cut it, except for when you can't see half the house. Shout out to Northern Ontario.
All right, Scott, let's then shift our attention fully to the 2024 Men's World Curling Championship. Just like with the women, 13 teams in the field in Switzerland. Scott, what town are they playing in over in Switzerland?
I know what town it is, Sean, because I do my research for this show.
Great.
It's in Schaffhausen.
Okay. Do you know anything about Schaffhausen?
It's a town with historic roots, a municipality in northern Switzerland, the capital of the canton of the same name, has a population of 36,000 and is located on the Rhine River.
Okay.
A high Rhine River.
Ooh. All right. Well, there you go. So all 13 teams will be in the field, just like with the women's. 6 teams into the playoffs. Top 2 get a bye to the semi-final. 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. The winner of the 3-6 game will play the number 1 ranked team. They do not reseed at this. This is the first year of Olympic qualifying. Top 8 will automatically get in, minus Italy, because they already have a spot. So top 7, I should say, will automatically get in after the 2 years. Scott, I've broken this down, as I am wont to do, based on my power rankings of who the favorites are.
Is this a who can win or who the favorites are?
Who the favorites are, but how many teams do you think can win?
I think there is 5 teams that can win.
Yeah, I have 5 too. I think there's a pretty good drop off after 5.
Yeah. But there's a couple, there's maybe in that second group, maybe there's like 4 top tier, maybe 3 middle tier, and then the last.
Yeah, I think there's a top 4, then a 5th really good team, and then sort of 3 teams in the playoff contention, and then everyone else scrapping for some Olympic points.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, so let's then kick it off, Scott, with the defending world champions from Scotland. It is Bruce Mowat, his team, not the Scottish national champions. They lost the semifinal to James Craig. I will recommend to you the recent Rocks Across the Pond episode where they talked about the World Championship, whether or not it's a good idea to have the World Championship be Olympic qualifying. Really good discussion over there on Rocks Across the Pond, so I'll recommend that to you. But it is a selection system in Scotland, so Bruce Mowat is back to defend his gold medal. Also the reigning European champion from the fall. 59-20 on the season, 47% hammer efficiency. Won the Canadian Open, beating Brendan Botcher. And they also won the Aberdeen event earlier this month, 2 weeks ago, there in Aberdeen, where they beat John Schuster in the final. Scott, not the greatest of seasons for these guys compared to the standard that they have set for themselves, but they broke through, won that gold medal last year. I think they have to be considered the favorites.
Do they? I don't know about that. I don't know that they have to be considered the favorites. A certain team from a country hosting the Olympics in 2 years might have something to say about that. But they're definitely in the top tier of teams. I would be shocked if they weren't in the playoffs. I don't know what else to say. They're really good.
Indeed, they are. All right, well, let's move on to another team that's really good. Let's talk about the Canadians. Your defending silver medalist lost the final to Bruce Mowat last year, 9-3 during the round robin. They are 43-16 on the season, 47% hammer efficiency. Their hammer defense, Scott, 9%. So they're giving up multiples 9% of the time. At the Briar, that number more than doubled to just around 20%. 20% is still not bad. Like
it's insanely good.
Like, I mean, 20% we'll see. Like 20% is about average for these teams. 9% is out of this world. And that's what they've been doing all season. They did, though, Scott, in their 11 games, give up 9 steals, which is more than you would guess for a Brad Gushu team. A little less than 1 a game. They did win the Pan Continental Championship in the fall, won the Kurosawa event as well. So they're coming in on a pretty good run of events and wins so far this season. Scott, how do you stack them up this week?
Yeah, obviously Team Gushu is another one that's going to be there at the end of the week. They got through what I thought was a pretty good Briar field this year, and seemed to do so relatively easy. I mean, they didn't win their pool, but they were right there all week, sort of steady, as much under the radar as a Team Canada Brad Gushu can be at a Brier, and just sort of that steady level of excellence has been there. Do we know what happened to Brad's knee?
No.
So, we'll watch out for that, see how they're feeling physically.
Yep.
But no, I'm not worried about this team at all.
Yeah, if there was any doubts about Brad's knee, they selected Kyle Daring to come with them as the 5th player, and I don't think they would. Well, no, they would not put Kyle Daring into skip if Brad was injured. Mark would, but everyone else presumably would shift up one. He just played 3rd before, so presumably Kyle would go in at a front end position there. But that is the selection, so that makes you think that maybe they're pretty confident in Brad's leg. He was on the McCowan pod last week, and they did not ask him about his knee at all. They asked some interesting questions, interesting discussion, but did not ask him about his knee there. So I haven't heard anything about it. So presumably all's good.
All's good.
All right, Scott, let's move on to Sweden, who had their 4 consecutive World Championship run end last season. 6 overall for Nicholas Sedin. They went 9-3, lost the quarterfinal to Canada, 44-27 on the season. They also lost the European final in 2023 to the aforementioned Bruce Mowat. Scott, they are not your Swedish national champions for 2024 because they did not play in the Swedish national championship. So congratulations to Fredrik Niemann and his team, who are your Swedish national champions. But Nicholas Sedin is here. He is back. Scott, can this be number 7?
I think so. It can be. Not as good a year this year, as you mentioned, for this team. Sort of not what you'd expect out on tour. Kind of hard when there's another team that we're going to talk about who has been winning everything. So, tough to win when somebody else is winning all the events. That said, their hammer efficiency has been all right. Seem to be giving up a few more points than they might like, over 6 a game. Yeah. But this team has got all the talent in the world and can put it together for a week easily.
Yeah, 100%. They are very good, and that is shown by the fact that Nicholas Sedin's won 6.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
That's a lot of championships.
My professional opinion. It's a lot. All right, Scott, let's go to that other team that you were referencing. That is Italy. That is Joel Reiternaz. They finished 4th last year, went 8-4 in the round robin. This year has been a different story. They are 63-13 on the season, 56% hammer efficiency, 9% steel defense on the season. They are your Tour Challenge National and Masters champions, 4th place in the Euros, and they ran through the Italian Championship, did not lose a game. Scott, this is probably the hottest team in the world as we enter this event. So on the men's side, hottest team in the world. Can they keep it rolling and get to the top of the podium?
Sean, with numbers like that, yes, they can. You talked about Brad Gushu's 9% steel defense jumping up, but after playing in the Brier, these guys already played in the Euro, and that number is included in that. And the Euro field is I would say comparable to a Brier field, if not a little bit better. Hammer factor 0.47. When you take the hammer efficiency and subtract the steel defense, that's crazy good. That's top team in the world. If you're 0.4 or above, that's pretty incredible. So this team is rolling. We'll see if Joel is wearing the Trucks hat. I don't think he's allowed to.
That's not a sponsor.
It's not a sponsor, but
and it's not competing with the sponsor. It's not like one of the sponsors is cars.
Yes, that is true. And who sponsors this? The LGT.
LGT. Yeah. What do they do?
Yeah. Banking and asset management.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they don't compete, but I'm going to doubt it because it's not part of the team uniform. but yeah, this is the favorite going in. They kind of have to be due respect to everybody else. These guys have been beating the rest of the field all year.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll see if they can keep it up for this week. Again, this is, I think, in part the result of increased funds and the increased ability for them to practice, play more, because the Olympics are coming up. So, and they're making full use of that, and
Sure.
good on them for sure. As Russ pointed out at one point, used to make fun of him for losing to Joel Returnas.
Yeah.
I used to make fun of him all the time, but once a year. No, they don't. So big step here for Italy if they can get that over the top and get a world championship. All right, Scott, this is the fifth team of the five that when we said five could win. That is Switzerland. That is Yannick Schwaller with Benoit Schwartz throwing the fourth stones. They did very, very well last year, going 11-2 through the round robin, winning the bronze medal. They were the best in the field at 87.2%. This year, they are 52-21 on the season, scoring 8.11 points per game, 51% hammer efficiency. Based on the field, they are giving up a few more points when the other team has the hammer. They're over a point against per end when the other team has the hammer. For the top four teams, that's higher than what they're doing. They're able to keep it under one. They've given up, Scott, 25 ends so far this season of 3 or more. And that's on a total of 274 ends without the hammer. So 9% of the ends that they have played without the hammer, they have given up a 3 or more. That is a bit of a high ratio for this week. That works out to, in a round robin of 12 games, something like 10-ish, 8, 9, 10-ish 3+. That's not going to be good enough. So that's something their defense is going to have to get a little better in this field. That ratio can't keep up.
No, that's no good. And we're talking about Norway, right?
No, Switzerland.
Okay, Switzerland. I thought we were talking about Norway because Norway did well last year, but okay, Switzerland. No, keep this all in, Sean. This is gold. Yeah, but when I look at Switzerland's numbers, right, their steal defense of 12% is again very, very, very good.
Yeah.
With numbers like that, this team is going to be fine. Like your point,
just the big ends. They're just giving up the big ends.
Yeah. If they can limit the big ends, they're going to be right there with anyone. We know Benoit can throw all the shots, as can Yannick Schwaller. Yeah, so it's just going to be about limiting the damage and then playing the games against the other four that we've already talked about, playing them close and winning them, and then taking care of business against the teams that they should beat. They're the team that I think can least afford slip-ups to the teams lower down in the table.
Yeah, but again, last year 11-1, right? So they have it in them for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Scott. Now let's talk about
Norway. Let's talk Norway.
They were the sixth playoff team last year, or one of the six playoff teams, I should say. They went 10-2. So as you say, they were very, very good. Their two losses were to Scotland and Switzerland. Last year, they lost to Italy in the qualification game. This year, they are 34-24 with 38% hammer efficiency, 6-3 at the Euros, and made it into the quarterfinals of the Masters. Scott, when I look at their numbers from last year, one thing that stands out to me is of the six playoff teams, they were fifth in shooting percentage and fifth in draw shot challenge. So a bit of smoke and mirrors at times when compared to the other five playoff teams for them to be as high as they were in the ranking. But winning close games, you can argue, is a skill, and they did that last year. But those numbers you'd like to see a little higher in order to sustain that, especially I think the draw shot challenge. I think this is a team for whom the hammer in the first end is going to be very useful. You know, Magnus Ramsfeld, as we said, he can make all the shots, but having that extra little advantage to start the game, that'll put them in good stead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a team that is almost there. They're the one that's almost in that next tier of teams. but they've got to put it together for the whole week. The draw shot challenge is an interesting way to put it. I think that's right. They're likely going to need head-to-head tiebreakers or that draw shot challenge, unless they can stack up some wins against the teams that we've talked about already. But looking at,
they're good enough.
They can, yeah. I wouldn't pick them to beat any of those teams head to head in a one game, but it's possible in a one game. They've played games against all the teams that are here. I think maybe not everybody, but a lot of the teams. They've lost to Netherlands a couple of times in their events. So maybe something to watch out for when they play them. But otherwise, they're familiar with all these teams, have the skills. It's about putting it all together for the week.
Well, in fairness, though, to Norway, Scott, what are you going to do when Woodermania runs wild over you?
Just let it happen.
All right, so let's move on to the Americans and John Schuster. 5-7 last year, tied for 7th place. 45-21 on the season. 47% hammer efficiency. Scott, we talked about Norway giving up big ends. John Schuster is scoring big ends. He has 34 scores of 3+ in 216 ends with the hammer this year. That is a percentage of 16. That's going to be more than 1 per game if he's able to keep that up over the course of the week. And here's my bold prediction. If he's scoring threes at that rate this week, they're in the playoffs. Scott, they went 2-6 at the Slams. They lost the final of an event in Aberdeen, the event in Aberdeen a couple weeks ago that I mentioned. They went almost undefeated through the American Championships. They lost the 1-2 game, but that's why there is a 1-2 game in a Page playoff, because they were able to come back through the semifinal and win. Scott, we've seen John Schuster catch lightning in a bottle before. I don't know why he couldn't do it again.
I suppose so. Yeah. There's always a chance. You're right. This is a fun team to watch. They like mixing it up. They've got the shots in their back pocket. It's about making them at the right times. For them. Their aggressive style can get them into trouble against some of the top teams that are able to make the runbacks and peels a little more accurately. But they're fun to watch. Scoring over 9 points a game is fun to watch.
Absolutely.
If they mix it up and are able to get mistakes out of some of the other teams, then, like you say, they're going to score those big ends and they're going to be able to ride those into the playoffs. If not, then yeah, it's probably another DNQ for Team USA.
All right, Scott, let's go to another team from the Pan-Continental Championships. That is Japan. Shinya Abe is skipping this team. He is throwing the 3rd stone. Tetsura Shimizu is going to be throwing the 4th stone. Scott, Abe last appeared at the World Championship. He was the lead for Team Matsumura back in 2021. That team went 6-7. Shimizu was on that team as well. Abe is the 2018 Pacific Asian Curling Championship champion. RIP to that event. On the season, they are 27-17, 49% hammer efficiency, 29% steel defense. They went undefeated, through the Japanese championships. They played in that event in Aberdeen a couple weeks ago, went 1-4. Scott, we talked about this with a couple teams at the Briar, where you have some younger players with some older players. That's the situation here. 2 older players with 2 younger players. There is experience there, and there's a chance, but that they could get off to a good start. The schedule maker, I don't think, has done them any favors, starting with Italy and Sweden. But because of that experience, because there's a lot of knowledge there, they can give some teams to run for money.
I think so. I think their goal will be to sneak into that 6th playoff spot this week. Besides that, it's just racking up wins to get those Olympic qualification points. we saw at the Women's World some teams with some younger players playing with some older players to gain experience, and I think that's a good, solid strategy for a Japanese curling on the men's side that's in a bit of transition right now.
Yeah, with Matsumura stepping away, you're right. The program is in a bit of flux. So we'll see what happens here with Abe. And again, undefeated through the Japanese National Championship. And that is a pretty good event most years, pretty entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Scott, let's go back to the European side of things. Let's go to Czechia. Lucas Klima is back. Marek Chernovsky is there as the third, but we do have a change in the front end. Martin Urich is going to be playing second. He was lead last year. Radek Boak is out, so Lucas Klippa is in. He was the alternate last year. They went 3-9 in 2023 for 10th place, but they were the best non-playoff team in terms of draw shot challenge. This season, they have a 35% hammer efficiency. They won the Prague Classic. That's usually a pretty good event. 3-2 in Aberdeen a couple weeks ago, and 2-7 at the European Championship in order to get into this event. Scott, in 2022, they were very close to the Olympics. That is their goal. It's not to win the world. Well, I mean, if they could win the world, they're not going to throw it.
No,
right? Obviously, they're going to try to win, but their goal is to get to the Olympics in 2026, and a strong showing here. Like I talked to Lucas Klima a couple times when it was in Vegas in the mixed zone, and he was so disappointed that they didn't get in 2022.
Yeah,
I feel like of all the skips in this field, it's possible he's putting the most pressure on himself of all of them. And I hope that doesn't manifest in poor play, because he can make all the shots. And if they can pick up the ice early, get it going. Again, I don't know if they could sneak into the playoffs necessarily. And again, maybe they don't have any favors with them, or maybe it's good. They play Canada and Italy first and get those games in, get them out of the way. If one of them trips up on the ice and you can get a win, great. And if not, you've lost 2 games and picked up the ice in games that you're probably not going to be favored in anyway. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with them. I don't know, 3-4. If they can get 5 wins, I think 5 wins gets them in pretty good shape to get into that top 8 for the Olympics.
Yeah, and that's going to be pretty hard to come by. But putting themselves in a good position with a strong draw shot challenge is never a bad idea. So best of luck. And, I'm sort of cheering for them to get to the Olympics too, because like you say, that was pretty devastating. I think they lost 2 win and in matches in 2022. So you hate to see that.
All right, Scott, let's stay in Europe. Let's go with Germany. Mark Muskowitz and his team with Benjamin Kapp, Felix Mezenel, and Johannes Schwoller. They are here, Scott. They were not the German representatives at the European Curling Championship. That was Sixten Totzek. This team is so under the radar in this field, Scott, that Curling Zone doesn't have a profile for them. So they're here.
I found it.
All right, here we go. Give it to me. What are their stats?
All right, 35-23 on the year. 8.39 points a game, 661 against. Hammer efficiencies 0.52.
Nice.
Steel defense at 22, giving their hammer factor 0.3.
Okay.
Pretty middle of the road, I'd say.
So
hammer efficiency over 50 is good, though.
It is 100%. And Mark's been at this event a few times. He was the alternate last year. He's played himself. He's been the alternate a few times. So the idea of being at a world championship, not a surprise. So there is the experience factor for them. I mean, Germany is in actually a pretty good spot, to be honest. Benjamin Kapp, I believe he was there at the juniors, the World Juniors, him and some other guys, Andy Kapp's son. So that's why that name is going to be familiar to a lot of folks. Actually, just like Czechia, they start against Canada. So interesting there. The Czechia in the afternoon, Germany in the evening there on Saturday. I don't know, Scott. Germany on the men's side, they do have young teams. Like there's multiple teams at the junior level who are competing hard against each other, multiple youngish teams like in their 20s at the men's level. None have performed great on tour or at Worlds or frankly at the Euros yet, well enough to get into this event. But is there going to be some sort of a consolidation with the best players, or will this competition sort of drive performance? I don't know. But Germany feels like it could be up and coming and on the verge of something in a few years.
Yeah, and I wonder if this competition is somewhat trying to emulate what Scottish curling has done,
right?
In taking their top teams and having them go against each other in their high performance program, and we've seen exactly what that's done for teams like Ross White and teams like the true Scottish champions. So, yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I think this team would be surprising to make the playoffs for me, given the strength of the field above them, but you never know. They're in the, okay, I could see it kind of realm.
Yeah. I think another team that is in that realm, Scott, is Korea. Park Young-duk, Jeong Young-seok, Oh Seung-hoon, and Seung Ji-hoon. They are here. They went undefeated through the Korean National Championships, 9-0 there. Park is back. He was the second in 2016 on the team that went 2-9 there on the season, 38-28 and a 41% hammer efficiency. They did lose the final of the Pan Continental Championship to Brad Gushu. But of course, to lose the final, you have to get to the final. So an impressive performance there for them. 3-2 at that event in Aberdeen a couple weeks ago. Again, Scott, I don't know about what this is going to look like for this team. It's been a while since Park has been there. New role as well at a world championship. So I think for them, similar idea. Try and get some wins, put yourself in a position, or put the federation in position to be in striking distance of an Olympic spot next year.
Yeah, I think that's right, Sean. That's the way to look at it for them. A great finish at the Pan Continental. They did beat Brad Gushu in the first game of the event. So a bit of a feather in their cap for that. I think you're spot on with the rest of it, though. Just trying to earn some points this year.
All right, Scott, let's go back to Europe. Let's go to the Netherlands. It is the return of Wouter to the World Championship. Did not qualify out of the European Championship last year. Was there in Vegas in 2022, where they went 3-9, 3-6 at the European Championship this season. 37-34 overall, 38% hammer efficiency, which is pretty low for this field. 0-4 at the Tour Challenge. They did get into the Tier 1 there. They did win the Sun City Cup in February, so they're coming in off a pretty good event there last month. Went 3-2 at that Aberdeen event. Seems like a lot of teams actually went 3-2 at that Aberdeen event. Pretty balanced field there. Scott, we've seen them at the World Championship before. Never had a great performance, but have made some great shots. It seems like you don't ever want to give Wouter an angle run back. Like, make him draw the button. Don't give him the angle run back sort of thing. But overall, probably not a threat to win. Maybe not a threat to the playoffs, but an interesting and fun team.
Yeah, definitely fun team to watch. I felt like they've been up and coming for the last 8 or 9 years. So, not quite there, but really, really fun to watch. Those run backs when they make them are great. And like you say, who doesn't want Woutermania to come and, take over an event? I think it would be fun.
Yeah. You say up and coming for 8 or 9 years. Scott, I believe Wouter is 25 years old.
Yeah, but I feel like he's been at the events for that many years. I must be wrong, but
I think Jaap van Dorp's been around longer.
Yes.
So yeah, he got replaced by not replaced. They're on the team together, but
they're on the team together. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's now Woutermania.
Fair enough. I'm going to go back through the teams.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Scott. While you're doing that, let me talk about the final team in the field. That is New Zealand. That is Anton Hood back after a 1-11 performance last year with Ben Smith, Brett Sargon, and Hunter Walker. Same lineup, 16-21 on the season, 34% hammer efficiency. They went 8-1 in the New Zealand Championships. A very strong performance, 4-3 at the Pan Continental. They beat Australia, Guyana, Taipei, and that Korean team that beat Brad Gushu. So, by the transference principle, they beat Brad Gushu. Just a fact. So, Scott, 1-11 last year. Do you know who they beat off the top of your head?
Last year?
Yeah.
Was it Turkey?
It was not. It was Germany in Sixten Totzig in an 11-8 final there. Again, I think this is a team, Scott, if they can get a win, that's a good week.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they'll be looking for this week. I don't think there's anything more to hope for. So getting there, getting a victory for New Zealand would be good.
Yeah. And perhaps unsurprisingly, Scott, the game that they play against Canada is one of the games that is a morning draw locally. So it'll be on at 4 a.m. in Canada. TSN wasn't willing, or I'm sure there was a consideration there that, okay, if Canada has to play a morning draw, going to lose some of the TSN audience, maybe a game that might be a little shorter.
What time will that be in New Zealand?
Later.
Let me look. New Zealand time zone.
What are they, 14 hours ahead of us?
Yeah, it's 15 hours.
15 hours. Okay.
Yeah. So if it's 4 a.m, that means it'll be 9 p.m.
There you go. Prime TV.
Time.
Yeah. Get it done. I like it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. Canada actually does have the same schedule as the women did in terms of times. It's not the same teams in the same spots, but 2 games Saturday, afternoon Sunday, afternoon Monday, and then split days through the rest of the week until Friday. So kind of curious there that the schedule is the same in that regard. Scott, those are the 13 teams who are in the field. We will or can now make our picks. Let's just recap what happened on the women's side. Scott, you did pick Canada to win. So that's a feather in your cap. You picked them to beat Sweden and the Americans to get bronze. So good thing you got one thing right. I had Sweden winning, obviously, with Italy and Canada rounding out the podium. So we each only had one podium team right, and that being Rachel Homan. So let's do better here. Scott, what is your podium for the 2024 Men's World Curling Championship?
Sean, I've been talking them up the whole podcast. They're the hottest team in the world. They have the power of a hat. I have to pick Italy. Sure. I have to pick them to be the champions this year. I think I picked them to win Euros and they didn't, but whatever. Ride with them.
Yeah.
So I'll pick Team Italy to win, and I'll pick Scotland and Canada to round out that podium.
All right, so you got a Scottish-Italian final. Scott, I'm actually going to go with the same 3 podium teams. I'm going to go in a different order, though. I'm going to say Canada, Italy, Scotland. So give me Gushu over return as in the final. Bit of a payback because, of course, when Joel Returnaz beat Russ Howard, Brad Gushu also on that team. Little known fact that Gushu was on that team. So that's gonna go with what I got. We got a Canada sweep here between the men's and the women's.
Nice. I got another fact for you. Wouter appears on Curling Zone's teams with Jaap van Dorp starting in 2014-15.
Wow.
So that's 9 years.
Yeah. He was a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. Well, so starting when he was 15. There you go. Good job by Wouter.
Wouter mania, baby.
Yeah. All right. So as we said, the games are 9, 4, and 7 local time in Switzerland. In Canada, that is 4, 9, and 2. So Eastern time. You can adjust everywhere else across the country and around the world. So hopefully you can get these games. Scott, before we go, I do want to get to an email that we got relative to not the times necessarily, but towards the ability to watch these games.
Okay.
One of the things, Scott, we talked about in our bold predictions episode was that one of these things could potentially go away, Curling Canada Plus or whatever the recast option was. That has not happened yet. But Scott, the sense I'm getting is that a lot of people want it to go away.
Okay.
All right. So Scott, we got this email from Kate Eels. Apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Kate. Dear Sean and Scott, who is the worst provider of streaming curling in the world, and why is it the World Curling Federation? And she sent along a screenshot of the stream error between the United States and Turkey game in the round robin. Said that draw one was a clown show, error messages for the first couple ends, fixed cameras, and lighting like it was a bathroom. This I love. And lighting like the bathroom in an embassy suites. In 1986, ambient sound but no commentary. Draw 2 was better, good production values and commentary with Rona and Kevin Martin.
Yeah,
it's just as I understand it, the WCF scheduled this event some time ago, not like the 3 months we had to prepare for the Pan Continental. Why can't these people deliver a quality streaming product? The comments on the WCF page are brutal. My favorite so far is, quote, tell me you're still using recast without telling me you're still using recast. So there you go. And so Kate was not a fan of what the World Curling Federation is offering. I don't think many people are. I think we're very lucky to have TSN to watch the Canada games. Not as many updates I noticed at the Women's Worlds is certainly what they do during a Brier and a Scotties, but something's got to give here in this thing. And the Canadian juniors are going on right now on Curling Canada Plus. I think it's getting way less exposure than if it was on YouTube or if CBC was streaming it, or just like there's something to wider distribution and having it available to people that casual fans can find it and watch it. You can only draw so much blood from the stone of your diehard fans.
Yeah, well said, Sean. And there are YouTubers that make millions and millions of dollars each year. So I know that Curling Canada is not going to get the eyeballs that those sort of top level channels do, but it's going to be more than nothing. Right. I think, I mean, even if you've got 1,000 people watching a stream, the advantage is that it's still there later on to go back and watch. And that's something that us for our show would love the ability to go back and watch the the junior final or events from years ago, even right, to talk about them in an intelligent way. And if you're trying to grow the game, having these kind of events for free makes way more sense, because what you're doing is charging the families of the people that are participating to watch it.
Yep.
Which is fair. They're the ones that are going to want to watch it, but you're at the same time, like, for whatever money that makes you're missing out on the potential for other people to stumble upon it and find it. So no,
and I get the idea too, that because I've people have said this, and it's in the context of social media. If something is free, then you are the product, right? You are being sold because of advertising, and I get that, but they're selling advertising anyway. So I'm already the product in that regard as the viewer, and there has to be a way to quantify, especially for on ice logos and stuff, right? We're the market for curling, you and I, and presumably everybody who's listening to this. I'm not going to watch the juniors at all because, one, I don't really want to pay for it. And two, I don't know. Can I just buy one game? I don't even know. And I don't have the inclination to go explore that. Whereas if it was just on YouTube or on CBC, okay, I'll go look at it and I'll watch it. But if I have to buy a whole event pass, I'm not going to do that. And I always feel like there's a risk in buying a single game too, right?
Yeah.
You could right? Like, so I don't have the occasion to watch all the games. So what's the value proposition? And again, I'm in the market for who they're trying to get, and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So something's got to give, and we still got 9 months left here in 2024. So that bulk prediction still could.
Yeah, and as far as the production goes, Sean, like when there's products out there like Curling Stadium that are doing a great job with streaming, I feel like there's very little excuse for the WCF to not have great production on all of their streams.
Yeah, 100%.
So
yeah, you got the cameras there, you got the overhead cameras, right? It's one person presumably to follow, like if that's all you want is the overhead to follow the rock down, right?
Yeah.
It's one person to control it, right? Remotely. That's not crazy.
Not crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, hopefully this week's better. We'll see. Probably not, but we'll see. So there you have it. Men's World Curling Championship going to kick off on Saturday from Switzerland. And if you want to hear our thoughts when it's all over, do subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast, likes, rates, comments, all that good stuff. Helps other people find the show, keeps us going. GameOfThronesPod.com for all of our past episodes, plus a link to the merch. On the socials at Game of Stones Pod, other than Facebook, where it's Game of Stones Podcast. You want to reach out, let us know what you think. Game of Stones Podcast at gmail.com. So, Scott, this is the final event in the Season of Champions. I mean, the Mixed Doubles Worlds is coming up. The Mixed Doubles Canadians, I believe, is going on now-ish.
It's over.
It's over. Oh, that's right. It is over. Because Colton Lott and Kadriana Sahaidik Nii Sahaidik won.
Yeah, they did. In a pretty good game. I think they were down a bit at the beginning, cracked a 3 in the third, and boom, there you go. They're the champions.
We like that. That's great after they lost a few years ago. And so they beat Walker and Myers in the final there.
Yes, too bad for Kirk and Laura. We like them. But happy to see some new blood there going to go to the Worlds, and for a pair that have focused a lot on mixed doubles. Colton Lott, has played now with Team Dunstone, right?
Yeah.
And sort of put mixed doubles back on the back burner to go into the men's team, and now seeing the success of playing on that men's team, perhaps bringing the experience and skill back to his mixed doubles team. Just a cool story.
Absolutely. So congratulations to them. Good luck at the World Championship, because that's also for Olympic qualifying points at that one too. And it's harder at the mixed doubles because it's a different format and harder to get into those top positions. So good luck to them and everybody who's going to be playing in that event. We will talk about it at some point. And if you want to hear that discussion, please stick with us through the spring into the summer, which is our favorite time, or my favorite time of year, to put together episodes. So we'll be with you throughout the off season once it arrives. But until then, keep those brooms on the ice and don't dump that intern.
Make the final.